All right. Hello and welcome to the Bokeh and Mocha podcast. I'm, of course, Griff, joined with Christopher.
Hello.
And Abigail, our technical director behind the scenes at the board. You might notice that Genevieve is not here. Unfortunately, she came down with something, and we'd rather not have her be patient zero or anything like that kind of thing. So,
Absolutely.
So it's just Chris and I for this episode of the Bokeh and Mocha podcast. Of course, if you're new here, we are photographers, three different photographers of three different experience levels. Christopher, 15 plus years of experience in the professional photography industry. Myself, a 5-year experienced photographer, hobbyist, amateur, transitioning into professional photography. And Jen is our up and coming first year learning the new craft. And we like to talk about photography over coffee, and hence the Bokeh and Mocha podcast. And we are going to basically go over kind of the ins and outs, the philosophies of photography, and also the the technical side of things and the artistic side of things. And today is a very technical one, because today we are talking about the exposure triangle, the 101 of photography.
Absolutely. I mean, everything pretty much comes into an exposure triangle. One of the things that we'll be discussing is what you see on the screen here. This is how we can change our three pyramid versions of the exposure to benefit our exposure to what we want. So we have our aperture, we have our shutter, and we have our ISO. Some of the things, and we'll get really into the nitty-gritty on each of our segments today over each one. The first one we're going to talk about is our ISO. This is typically your first setting that you would do when you get onto your location for your shoot. When we talk about each one of these segments, we're also going to talk about when you change one setting, how it affects the way the picture can be taken, and what you need to do to compensate for that.
The best analogy that I can think of is if you've seen that picture online of, do you want, when a job is done, do you want quality, do you want it quick, and do you want it cheap, but you can only choose two.
Yep.
So whatever you pick to compensate is going to affect the other two that you're going with.
Yep. And that's precisely what we're doing with this triangle as well. So with this, we have the three main pillars. ISO, which for those who are in film know what that actually means. That was your image speed or your film speed you could have. Then you have your aperture. This is how big or small the shutter aperture is set to. And then, of course, your shutter speed, how fast that shutter can be able to go. With the ISO, back in the old film days, we had the system set up where we would have to actually choose the film speed before we would actually go out in the field. And if you had 24 images in the film and you didn't use all of it, you had 24 images you had to use up pretty quickly on that film speed. So we learned a lot on how to adjust to what our ISO was. If we go back towards the actual image as a large image, we'll focus on the bottom of the triangle. our ISO, we have a very wide range of what we can choose from.
Mhm.
For the system, from what I do, I don't use anything in an automatic form. I use everything in manual. So I start at ISO 100. This is going to pretty much let in the least amount of light
Mhm.
that goes into the system.
Mhm.
However, it's going to be the clearest.
Mhm.
We won't have any digital noise created by that.
Yeah.
So for outside, this is phenomenal during the middle of the day,
Mhm.
bright sunny skies, all that kind of stuff. We have a very little amount of light, but yet we don't have any noise in there.
Mhm.
If you go inside between 400 and 800 ISO, this is going to be a better system for that, just because that gets you more light coming into the camera, but yet you're going to start creating some digital noise.
Yeah. Now, speaking of digital noise, so if I remember correctly, ISO on a digital camera, which is what we all shoot on, it's going to be the digital compensation that your camera fills in, basically, to try and finish out the image because it doesn't have enough light to finish out that image.
That is correct. So the digital noise is its creation of something that doesn't actually exist there. Some people call it artifacting as well. Some people, like myself, will use that artifact to our advantage, especially if we're doing things like astrophotography. We can bring that ISO level way high because you're taking pictures of white dots is what you're exposing against a black sky.
Yeah.
So if you're taking a picture of that and it creates an extra 20 or 30,000 additional pixels in there that of an abundant light, you can't really tell the difference. If I take the same exposure level, we'll say I use around 12,000 ISO occasionally when I'm doing my astrophotography. If I brought that and took a picture of you, we'd tell the difference because it will be pixelated out and we'll see errors throughout the system.
Now, on the flip side of that, I like using automatic ISO when I'm doing street photography because I like going for that more granular, almost vintage look when I'm doing street not portraiture, but street photography. I'm capturing kind of those moments there, just in the moment, and I want to make sure that my depth of field is correct with my f-stop or my aperture, and I also want to be able to freeze the movement with a higher shutter speed. So I'll let that ISO get up there if I need to, because it also adds for that kind of vintage feel, like I went back in time and caught like something from the olden days, if you will.
Well, yeah, and that's mainly because when you got the old film ones, you could get the cheaper film was ISO 800, and that was just the standard when you went and got the point and shoot cameras, the little disposable ones. They usually came between ISO 600 and ISO 800, so you're going to get some of that grainy look to it. You would get your expensive film, that was the ISO 400, the 200, and the 100. So for you, that's where you can get a lot of that. And another advantage of doing the street photography with the automatic ISO is you can change your shutter and your aperture, and your ISO is going to move to keep your exposure. I've always been the one where I keep everything manual because I control how I want for my exposure. So when we have a properly exposed image, what we talk about means that the light is exactly what it should be for an exposure. The depth of field should be what it needs for the exposure, and the clarity is what you would need for the exposure. All three of those is what makes up the perfect exposure.
You want to find that sweet spot between all of them.
Correct.
And whatever you change on one is going to affect the other two.
Now there's some in an artistic style, like for instance, if I'm taking pictures of a sunset, I don't want a perfectly exposed sunset because we lose color. I want to underexpose my image by at least one full stop underexposing. So understanding the exposure triangle means you can manipulate all three of your settings to be able to create that. Even though it's not a perfectly exposed image, you're bringing it down to what you would need. And a lot of that also comes from our aperture as well. And one of the big things that we work with all the settings is they benefit each other.
Mhm.
In ISO, the biggest thing we have to really pay attention to is particularly how much exposure, how much light we want into the camera. So if I'm outside and I want a daytime picture, like your street photography, instead of having auto ISO, if I keep it at an ISO 400, I'm going to allow the correct amount of light coming in while still introducing some of that data or that old style
grain if you
grain
will.
to it. Yeah. But if you bump it up to 800, you can manipulate with your other settings to make that expose and still keep that old grainy style photo without having your automatic ISO behind the fact.
Yeah. For me, and because I'm only like 5 years into photography too, I mean, it just became easier for me to just throw the ISO onto automatic and just use everything else on manual kind of thing. So yeah.
Well, I think we're gonna have to take a small little break here from ISO. When we come back from our break, I think you're gonna teach us about aperture. Is that correct?
I'll do my best.
Well, I mean, aperture is always fun. We can be able to do some really cool manipulations with it. And I look forward to hearing from that after this break.
Welcome back to the Bokeh and Mocha podcast. We are going to be talking about the exposure triangle. We're on the second part of the exposure triangle, which is, of course, aperture. Aperture is the size of your shutter that's inside of your camera. You can see it depicted on the left-hand portion of this exposure triangle graph there. And if you have your camera on and look down the lens, you would actually be able to see that shutter inside of your camera and how bigger or how much bigger it is or how much more small it is. And it works just like the iris of your eyeball, how you focus in and adjust to being able to see in the dark. Your pupils dilate a little bit more to allow in more light, and that's basically what the aperture does. The bigger or the more open that your aperture is, the more light that it allows to come in. The only thing, though, is that it also affects your depth of field as well. So typically speaking, the human eye, as far as depth of field goes, is 35 millimeters is the closest to the depth of field that you're going to get to the human eye. I mean, when we look around the room now, admittedly, I am nearsighted, so certain things, certain things are a little bit more out of focus than others from across the room. But with the camera, because you have that manual manipulation of where you can control your aperture settings, will affect like what is. So this is where the term bokeh in the Bokeh and Mocha podcast comes into. If we're looking at this this shot of me on the screen here, we have that aperture set to where you'd be able to see this lovely wood panel background behind me while also I am still in focus and things like that. But if we widen our aperture, then that background is going to be more out of focus, and that causes like that nice little kind of blur effect behind someone during portraits.
Now, when you say widen the aperture, are we going up or down in numbers?
We're going down in numbers. That's the other thing that throws a lot of people off, is the lower your number, the more open your aperture is. Why that is, I have never been able to figure out, but that's apparently the case there. So, but yeah, for something like portrait photography, you can get away with an aperture, or an f-stop is what the numbers are referred to, is that's your focal length, if I remember correctly. Yep, your focal length is that f number, or that f-stop. So you can get away with like some f4, but ideally for portraiture, you want to be going down to like a 2.8 to 2. Christopher and I were talking off stream a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about the 85, which I absolutely love to shoot portraits with, is an 85. And the one that I have has a f 2. 2.1, I think, is what my f-stop is at on my 85. But him and I were also talking about there was I bought a pretty budget lens with that one, and I think that one only cost me about maybe $500-600 or so.
Versus
But
the art lens
the
I
art
was
lens,
looking at.
yeah, the art
Yep.
lens, which was about $2,000,
Uh-huh.
but it had a buttery aperture of like 1.2 or
Yep.
something like that.
Yep, 1.2,
Yeah.
which is incredible. But
Yeah.
it'll create that depth of field
Mhm.
that I'm trying to find from the art, because I want to use it more as a macro style lens, and that's what it's designed for.
Exactly. And when I pointed out that some of the reviews that I saw on that particular lens, sometimes the bokeh would affect the person as well too. Like the bokeh
Yep.
would start at like the person's ears and like blur those out, so all you were getting was just a clear face, and then everything else was.
I mean, but coming from an artistic point of view, that would be kind of cool.
It would
too,
be
because
pretty
it
cool.
looks
Yes.
like they're coming through a portal.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you were saying one of the things you're trying to do is cosplay photography, correct?
Yep.
So something like that would be phenomenal. They've come through a portal.
Yep. Or with the flash, like have a little bit of motion blur even though they're standing still or something
Yeah.
like that. That'd be pretty fun. I'm not gonna lie. Don't convince me to lay down another $2,000 here, okay? We're trying to save money. We're trying to budget.
Oh yes. Yeah. So that's the downside of photography. We can both spend so much money on so many things, but yet we need to keep our budget.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, aperture is to sum up. It's going to be how much light you're letting in, but it also is going to affect your focal distance. So if you've got like foreground and background subjects as well too, that's also going to be affected by your f-stop. So if you've got a subject that's I don't know, say for example like cheering to the camera or something like that, and you would have this be out of focus, but their face is in focus and their background is in focus. That's all going to be affected.
You mean effectively what we just had on
yeah, exactly.
the camera?
Because now, yeah, there's your bokeh right there.
Yeah, well, it's showing your so your point of field is what you're actually showing. If I'm not mistaken, the lens that we actually have on that camera is your 85.
It is my 85. It is my baby.
I believe we're actually running close to an f3 or an f4 for that. So just by showing your arm length, that's the difference of your depth of field that we're pulling for. Yeah. Whereas if we switch to the other camera that's in front of me, this one, we actually have it set to where it's a different depth of field focus, because the way the background is behind me, we need a little more focus range for it. So we're sitting more at an f6 and f7, which gives us a wider depth of field. So when we're doing, for me, nature photography, if I want to be able to show like the Great Plains, I would want to have not a depth of field that would be really close to the camera, but all the way across. So I'd bring that aperture level all the way
F11,
up.
I think, is what I hear for a lot of landscape photography.
But then that drives into what I can build doing a shutter speed. And that's what we're going to be working on next, is shutter speed. Because now I got to let in a different amount of light to be able to get what I want to be able to do to have that depth of field.
Yep. Okay, and we'll go ahead and talk about shutter speed up next on the Bokeh and Mocha podcast. Okay, and welcome back to the Bokeh and Mocha podcast, part 3 of the shutter triangle, and this is a big one. This one is shutter speed. So, Chris, we've got a landscape portrait, or not a landscape portrait, but a landscape photo that we're setting up here. We have our aperture at 11, so we can make sure that we get both foreground, background, and midground all in perfect clarity. We've got our ISO let's say down to 100 because we're shooting outside. We have that little extra range to be able to do it. So what do we do with our shutter speed?
Well, see, that's the great question to ask. Now, what we've been showing on this image for the entire episode is this exposure triangle, and precisely what you're bringing up is one of the things that we talk about. To make a perfectly exposed image, if we're at an ISO 100, we'd take that line, go all the way across until it intersects with our f11 going towards.
Mhm.
So on here, if we go up from the 100 to the f11 point, and where that point meets, we draw a line straight across to where the shutter speed is. That would then show us that our shutter speed needs to be 1/15 of a second to create a perfectly exposed image.
Mhm.
By changing our shutter speed, we can be able to actually make that image darker.
Mhm.
So if we're doing a landscape image, like a sunset, we might want to bring it darker. We can be able to then take that intersecting line and change it all the way down our shutter speed.
Mhm.
So if we're at 1/80th of a second, we can be able to still capture all of that in a little darker exposure.
Mhm.
Now, the problem with shutter speed is it's how fast that shutter clicks, how long that essentially the film, or today's day, the processor,
Right.
is exposed to that light. If we have it exposed for a longer period of time, we're going to get this motion effect, which can be really cool if you're taking pictures of something that's in motion, such as an airplane prop. A lot of people like to be able to have pictures of airplanes. If you take it with a very fast shutter speed and the prop is completely frozen in time and you have no motion in there, it looks like it's a model just hung up on a string and sitting there. So you have a little bit of motion blur in that airplane prop to show it's actually flying through the air. Or a car, you'd want to have some motion in the car. If you're doing something that everybody loves, I'm assuming you're one of these people too, waterfalls. You can be able to take the exact same image of the same waterfall and have two completely different effects to it. The first one being in motion, you're letting the water cascade across that image time, so you have a long exposure time. You can even have 5-6 seconds. You get this smooth white, almost like a effect that you've drawn on there. Or if you have it at 2,000th of a second, you can be able to stop that water mid-motion and be able to see the water droplets in the image. It creates two completely different emotions to that image, whether it's this tranquil, peaceful style versus the awe of a waterfall being in the complete stopped point. Because when you go out to see a waterfall, your eyes can't be able to freeze frame the water that quickly. And that's where the effect of the camera can really drive that. With an exposure triangle, we learn this in photography not because the fact that that's the only right answer. It's to better manipulate light. That's all we're doing. As you said in one of our previous episodes, is photography is just drawing with light. This gives us the tools as a painter would, or as a clay would from a modeler, to be able to manipulate that light in a way. And shutter is just one of the ones that we can use.
You got to basically learn the rules before you break them.
Exactly.
In a way.
Exactly. One of the big things too with the exposure triangle, the way we brought it into here is actually how I set up whenever I do a shoot. First step, set my ISO for my scene that I'm working with. Am I inside? Am I outside? Am I doing astrophotography? Am I doing portrait? That determines what ISO I'm going to sit at. Being from the old film era, I always say old film, we still have some of it around. We would be locked into whatever our ISO number would be. So I'm always used to locking in my ISO for that setting. Then I'd go to aperture. What do I want for my depth of field? What do I want for the amount of light that's coming in? And that would then give me the answer for what we would have for the shutter speed. And then the shutter speed gives me that fine-tuned manipulation of how I want that image to actually look in camera, making it easier when I go into post-processing. I don't have to do as much editing to the photo because I've done it in that camera itself.
Now, talking about astro and landscape photography, so we have like a long depth of field, f11, we'll say. So we're letting in very little light. It's also getting a little dark out, so we're maybe nudging our ISO maybe up to about 400 or so, give or take, like we're shooting indoors in a way. So we'll need to slow that shutter speed down in order to let in enough light. And this is where your old friend, the tripod, will come in handy as well, too, because the thing that you also have to kind of remember, too, and especially with focal lengths, and me like shooting with prime lenses, because I shoot 35, 50, 85, and then I have a 24 that I use for wide sky shots and big landscape shots. But typically speaking, my shutter speed should not be, I think if I remember correctly, slower than the actual
focal length.
Yes, that's the word I was looking for.
Yes.
It's definitely
there's two rules of thumb to go by. Number one, your shutter speed should never go below your focal length that you're shooting. So if you're shooting an 85 millimeter, and then this only goes for non-cropped cameras.
Mm-hmm.
Keep that in mind.
Yep.
All focal lengths are designed for full frame cameras.
Yep.
So whereas yours is a full frame, the other one we were showing earlier is not. It's a crop sensor.
Mm-hmm.
So our focal length is different. Different rules apply for that.
Mm-hmm.
But your shutter speed shouldn't go lower than that because of how much your hands move.
Yep.
The other rule
What are you
of thumb.
talking about? My hands are steady.
Yeah, exactly. It's steady as a rock. The other rule of thumb is any focal length, even a 35 millimeter, don't go lower than 1/80th of a second because you can still get some of that motion.
Yeah.
When you're looking in the camera, you won't see it.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you put it on your computer, you'll see it.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that we were always told is if you're going to be shooting it in handheld, try to keep it at 1/100th or 1/125th.
Yep.
And then you'll on any lens that you use.
Yeah.
And then you'll pretty
Any
much
slower you want to put it on a tripod.
Yep. Or a gimbal stabilizer or anything of that nature as well.
Yeah.
Some of the gimbals, now we've got those nice handheld gimbals, you can be able to get down to about 1/30th of a second and still hand hold it because the gimbal takes out all that shake through there.
Yeah.
But then again, below that, your whole motion will then come through.
Yeah. But at the same time, though, I mean, for $12, you can get a pretty decent tripod too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think we have an episode coming up on really each of these equipments and everything and how to keep things under a budget as well.
Yeah. But there you go. That is, of course, the exposure triangle. And again, we could go even more in depth on each of these things. This is just an overview on this. If you have any questions, by all means, leave comments on where you are listening to this podcast or on YouTube or anything like that. And we'll definitely be able to go ahead and read them and answer them. We might put together a little question episode at some point and whatnot. But until then, keep shooting, keep sharing. Thanks for listening to the Bokeh and Mocha podcast.
Ready to see your world like never before? At Christopher's Creations in sunny Hays, Kansas, we're not just taking pictures, we're capturing pure magic. Imagine breathtaking drone photography and high-flying videography, perfect for showing off real estate or making any project absolutely unforgettable. But we don't stop there. Our pro photography team lights up every shot, from beautiful portraits and scenic landscapes to confident family photos and powerful headshots. Got a story to tell? We're your go-to for awe-inspiring videography, from dynamic editing to crafting those eye-catching commercial videos that get you noticed. So ready to bring your vision to life with a burst of creativity? Come visit us at 1700 Vine Street in Hays, Kansas. Give us a buzz at 785-380-9040. Or take a peek at all the amazing things that we do at ccreationsks.net. Christopher's Creations, LLC. Your sky, your story.
Escape the ordinary and journey to Wakini, Kansas, the gateway to the Smoky Valley Scenic Byway. Wakini offers a charming small-town atmosphere and a landscape bursting with natural beauty. Cruise the 60-mile scenic byway, a horseshoe route looming through rolling hills and golden grasslands. Witness the Smoky Hills transform, their name reflecting the hazy blue-gray hues they take on at sunrise and sunset. In spring, vibrant wildflowers paint the roadsides with color. Summer beckons with the cool embrace of Cedar Bluff Reservoir, a perfect spot for a refreshing swim or a peaceful afternoon on the lake. As fall arrives, the native grasses and trees erupt in a fiery display of autumnal colors. History buffs can delve into the past at the Wilcox School and 3 other historic kiosk locations, learning about the region's rich heritage and the lives of the pioneers who braved the frontier. Keep your eyes peeled for geocaches scattered along the byway, each a unique treasure waiting to be discovered. Treat yourself to a hearty meal at one of Wakini's local eateries, where you can savor the flavors of the Great Plains. Wakini and the Smoky Valley Scenic Byway uniquely blend natural wonders, small-town charm, and historical intrigue. So, explore the endless horizons, breathe in the fresh prairie air, and discover the magic of this hidden Kansas treasure.
Calling all photographers, videographers, and content creators. Are you looking for the perfect space to bring your vision to life? Look no further. Christopher's Creations is celebrating the grand opening of our brand new shared studio space. Join us October 14th at 1700 Vine in Hayes for the official ribbon cutting at 9 a.m. Learn more at ccreationsks.net. Don't miss this opportunity to connect, collaborate, and create.
Right. Live streaming. You gotta love it.
Yeah, and actually we wanted to take a break before we got on to our next episode, and to those who are actually with us live, we want to say thank you for supporting us over here. I mean, this is a new endeavor that we've been working on since the beginning of the calendar year, and we really wanted to share our experiences between my 20 years of being in photography, yours almost a full decade, Jen having her new stuff. But in order for us to keep doing that, we needed all your guys' support. So those who are on the live stream with us, or who are watching the recorded version of the live stream, we're very thankful for what you guys do. We do have a couple of special changes today.
Maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, announcements, changes, and stuff. One of the ones that we have is we're actually going to have a special guest here today for one of our deals. So we're going to have them come in, and
we're going to be going over some portrait photography.
Absolutely.
So give them a free headshot session to kind of sweeten the deal, if you will.
Yep. So but we are going to probably have to go back to one of our pre-roll cameras here real quick, just so we can get some our next section for the next episode set up, get them in here, and then we can all go from there.
Yeah.
So,
but again, if you have any questions or anything that you want us to touch on, topic to talk about, or anything like that, by all means, leave a comment and let us know, and we'll definitely be reading them and getting to them and everything.
So we'll go back to that little break again. It'll probably be about 5 minutes, and we'll be right back here to our system then. So until then, see you soon.
Pure magic. Imagine breathtaking drone photography and high-flying videography, perfect for showing off real estate or making any project absolutely unforgettable. But we don't stop there. Our pro photography team lights up every shot, from beautiful portraits and scenic landscapes to confident family photos and powerful headshots. Got a story to tell? We're your go-to for awe-inspiring videography, from dynamic editing to crafting those eye-catching commercial videos that get you noticed. So ready to bring your vision to life with a burst of creativity? Come visit us at 1700 Vine Street in Hays, Kansas. Give us a buzz at 785-380-9040. Or take a peek at all the amazing things that we do at ccreationsks.net. Christopher's Creations, LLC. Your sky, your story.
Escape the ordinary and journey to Wakini, Kansas, the gateway to the Smoky Valley Scenic Byway. Wakini offers a charming small-town atmosphere and a landscape bursting with natural beauty. Cruise the 60-mile scenic byway, a horseshoe route looming through rolling hills and golden grasslands. Witness the Smoky Hills transform, their name reflecting the hazy blue-gray hues they take on at sunrise and sunset. In spring, vibrant wildflowers paint the roadsides with color. Summer beckons with the cool embrace of Cedar Bluff Reservoir, a perfect spot for a refreshing swim or a peaceful afternoon on the lake. As fall arrives, the native grasses and trees erupt in a fiery display of autumnal colors. History buffs can delve into the past at the Wilcox School and 3 other historic kiosk locations, learning about the region's rich heritage and the lives of the pioneers who braved the frontier. Keep your eyes peeled for geocaches scattered along the byway, each a unique treasure waiting to be discovered. Treat yourself to a hearty meal at one of Wakini's local eateries, where you can savor the flavors of the Great Plains. Wakini and the Smoky Valley Scenic Byway uniquely blend natural wonders, small-town charm, and historical intrigue. So, explore the endless horizons, breathe in the fresh prairie air, and discover the magic of this hidden Kansas treasure.
Calling all photographers, videographers, and content creators. Are you looking for the perfect space to bring your vision to life? Look no further. Christopher's Creations is celebrating the grand opening of our brand new shared studio space. Join us October 14th at 1700 Vine in Hayes for the official ribbon cutting at 9 a.m. Learn more at ccreationsks.net. Don't miss this opportunity to connect, collaborate, and create. And welcome back to another episode of Bokeh and Mocha. My name's Christopher. I'm here with Griff, and we still have Jen under the weather right now, so she won't be with us this episode. Hopefully soon we'll have her back. I'm really looking forward to having her back on there. But for Bokeh and Mocha, we're here to kind of share our experiences from 15 years of professional experience to someone who's been doing a decade of non-commercial, almost a decade of non-commercial.
Yeah, getting on the generous side of decade, yeah.
Yeah, and then jumping into the commercial side of things now. And of course, Jen being our new and upcoming photographer.
Mm-hmm.
But today's episode, we're actually really looking forward to working with differences in rules and regulations.
Yep.
So a lot of that kind of can get in our way, right?
There's a lot of CYA stuff that you have to keep in mind of when you're doing photography, and especially for me as a street photographer as well too, that you have to also keep in mind.
Absolutely,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah.
What are some of the top 5 things we might have to really work with for different rules and regulations?
Well, also as a portrait photographer, there are model release forms that you can check out online as well. If you have like a photography business or that you're thinking about starting a photography business, there are some forums that you can have written up by somebody who knows what they're talking about, or there is a helpful resource as well too, which you introduced me to, and I don't remember the name of them off the top of my head.
The Professional Photographers of America, or
the
PPA.
PPA.
Yep, and I'll actually be talking a lot about that as well on today's episode.
Yeah, so
not sponsored, but we will explain how you can get it.
It's a great resource, though. At the same time, I guess the big thing is that, and this is coming from somebody who is more of a street photographer, even though it doesn't make any money. But the big thing is, don't trespass, no private property kind of thing. Now, if you're doing, like, say, for example, a street photography thing, you can photograph the outside of buildings because it's all in plain view of the business and of the people on the street. So if you're like capturing like somebody walking by a storefront and you really like the reflection on the mirror or the window, you can definitely grab that. But what you cannot do is go inside of a business and start taking photos because that is considered private property. I did Can
you take pictures through a window though?
That's a good question that I've never even attempted. So, what was your experience in running the
From
track?
what I've understood, and this is where we get into the gray area
Yep.
of the law.
Mhm.
If you take a picture from the street through a window, you as a photographer are still on the public side.
Mhm.
Depending on what your subject is on the inside will
Mhm.
determine if it's legal or not.
Right.
In my personal opinion, I don't take shots through the window
Mhm.
unless I have the model's permission and the store owner
Mhm.
or the store manager's permission
Yeah.
to be able to do that, because you could be able to unknowingly disclose something that they don't want to have disclosed.
Mhm.
Like if there's a recipe or something for a restaurant
Mhm.
or a certain decor that they have in there that's very unique to their
Mhm.
store, they don't want that to be broadcast across.
Yeah.
So I tend to stay away from going through windows, but
Or say, for example, if someone's husband is somewhere where they said they weren't, or something
that
like
too.
that.
But I mean, if they're on the street and you take a picture, then they're still going to get caught.
Yeah, it's true. If they're that blatant
Yep.
and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, and for me, like if I on the subject of minors, obviously, if you're doing a portrait shoot, you need to have permission from the parents or
Mhm.
the legal guardians in order to take their pictures, especially if you're doing like family portraits, things like that. There's also like a question on release. Is this going to get released online, or is it just being given to the family to release on their own kind
Mhm.
of thing? Um,
Yeah, there's quite a bit of people out there. I think you're one of them that don't really want your kid's face to be posted. For me, I'm at the point of going, it's going to happen whether he's at school or
Mhm.
being a street photographer. So I let his face go out,
Yeah.
but I'm still very cautious over who takes his picture.
Exactly. So, and I do actually post pictures of my kids online, but usually like it's from behind kind
Uh-huh.
of thing. So, like I've got this really wonderful shot that I took of them. It was almost a year to the day after their mother passed away, and all three of them were walking on the bridge of Frontier Park, and they were holding hands. They were it was just a nice little moment of them like kind of looking out for each other, and I thought it was just too good to pass up. But I posted it online because they're not exposed in any way, shape, or form. The other thing too, especially in street photography, and there are legal rules and then there are moral codes as
Mhm.
well too. Like legally speaking, in like say for example settings of photojournalism and stuff like that, when you're taking pictures of like war-torn countries or protests or something along those lines, or even like documenting tragic passings or tragic events and whatnot. um, for me, like I don't want to do that. That's a moral decision on mine. But legally speaking, like if I took a picture of a travesty and sold it to National Geographic, it's still legal within its rights. That's just not something that
As
I
long
would,
as they,
yeah.
as long as you were legally allowed to be there.
Exactly.
You didn't cross police barricades. You stay within the federal
Yep.
and the state law, or the country's law. It's not just here in the United States. It
Yeah,
can be
because
anywhere.
there are countries that street photography at all is not
It's not okay.
Is
Yeah.
not okay. So it all depends on where you're at and things like that. We're talking purely from an American standpoint. If somebody's at a protest, and you're well within your rights to document that protest, kind of thing. But yeah, basically it's fairly common sense. Like, don't go into private property without permission. If you are, say, for example, if a street photography session turns into a street portrait session, just make sure that you get permission.
So let me ask, when we talk about private property, does that mean the city park?
Nope.
Okay.
Yeah.
Railroad. Can we go on a railroad track?
There we go with the railroads. We were going to be talking about this for a while. So it's within 15 feet of the railroad, if I remember correctly, or is it 6 feet?
25.
25. I'm off on both of those numbers. I have just stayed away from doing railroad photography in general, just because of like Union Pacific and other train companies are now starting to like scan the internet with AI to like find people who have taken photos on train tracks and hitting people with hefty fines because the entire run of the track is private property.
Yep.
Up to 25 feet. for it.
And also goes with abandoned tracks too.
Mm-hmm.
Even though the tracks are not active,
Mhm.
it's still private property of
Mhm.
that rail line. There are some railroads that you can get written permission
Mhm.
for certain sections of abandoned track,
Mhm.
but you got to go through the process beforehand. And there's I believe if I remember correctly,
Mhm.
Union Pacific stopped doing their abandoned tracks
Mhm.
a few years ago just because of how many people were taking advantage of. They would give it to one photographer, that photographer would go out, and then 20 others would come
Mm.
up and say, well, since he was there, I would be there. And
Mhm.
UP said, okay, we're just going to not do it.
Yeah.
But that's being on the tracks. Nothing says you can't take pictures down the tracks. So, for instance, I've got a picture of 4014 who is coming around a bend.
Yeah.
I have a 600 millimeter lens, so I'm sitting on a public roadway, zoomed all the way in. So it looks like I'm standing on the track,
Mhm.
but in reality, I'm not.
You're not. Yeah. So yeah, basically, it's more of a physicality of where you're located when it comes to railroad photography.
Mhm.
Kind of thing.
How about airports?
No. If I remember correctly, no. It's commercial airspace, and again, you would definitely need to have permission in order to do it. And at the same time, they're probably not going to give it to you. Maybe they will, but it also goes the same for abandoned airports as well, too. If I remember correctly, because you never know if somebody's like making an emergency landing. You don't have a tie into that tower that somebody could
That's
be
correct.
coming in for an emergency landing and just run you over, run you and your model over while.
What's really interesting is there is a thing that you can take pictures of airplanes
Mhm.
at airports. A lot of airports now have this photographer's parking lot where they actually, in their fence, they have a hole just big enough for a lens to fit in,
Mhm.
so you can take pictures of the airplanes coming in and
Yeah.
taking off. That's the extent of what you can do
Yeah.
out on the runway. But being in an airport,
Mhm.
in the building,
Mhm.
you can still take pictures
Yeah.
as long as the model is okay with it.
Yep.
So
And,
get back to that gray area.
Yeah, exactly. It's more of along the lines of like, for me, like if you're doing candid shots, I would just err on the side of don't show any faces. Like somebody walking with an umbrella, I would probably try to like capture it where the umbrella is like obscuring them, and all you're doing is just capturing a subject, but you're not capturing a person in a way. Kind of thing.
Absolutely.
So,
Well, we're going to take a quick break here. We're going to go into the next segment, which is going to be how to protect yourself, because we've got a lot of those that we have to work with too as a
absolutely.
photographer. So we'll be right back after this quick break. And we're back here with our continuing episode here on Bokeh and Mocha on pretty much the rules and regulations and how to keep us safe
Know
as
your
a
rights.
photographer. Know your rights.
Know your rights and know your subject's rights.
Yes, yes. And believe it or not, we actually have quite a bit of rights as a photographer of what we can all do. Because we live in this wonderful country of the United States. We just talked about in the last segment, sometimes you can't do street photography. We have that right to be going out and having the ability to take images just in the public.
Mhm.
But when we're going out there, we still have to protect ourselves. Some things are, as we talked about, legal versus moral. If we use moral compass as a deeper connection in the legal side, we can save ourselves a lot of the legal trouble.
Mhm.
When we get into a gray area morally, that's when we're probably going to get into the gray area of the legality as well.
Yeah.
Some of the things that we do in the commercial side to protect ourselves is paperwork. Anytime that I get a new model that comes in or new client for whatever the case may be, there is always 5 documents every single time of a person that comes in that they have to sign. The first one is release of liability. The second one is their release for their model release form. The third is them understanding the understanding form of you're being documented on camera. The fourth one is typically a location form. If it's not here in the studio, if it's at their house, they have to sign that their location is allowed to be photographed as well. And then the fifth one is an age form, especially if we're going to be working with people who are minors. They have to have the parents fill out a minor release form.
Mhm.
If they are not a minor, then it's confirmation of that they are not a minor, and that all the other forms that were before are legal because they signed them.
Yeah.
So
And I know this sounds like really scary and whatnot, but we're talking about like, like dance photos. We're talking about senior portraits. We're talking
Yes.
about family portraits and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So,
the likelihood of something like that coming back to you,
Mhm.
it's not very high, but it's still at the same point.
Mhm.
Better to cover everything
Mhm.
through there.
Yeah.
For the other thing that you can protect yourself with is having a lawyer,
Mhm.
having a law system set up. We just talked about in the last segment, the Professional Photographer in America is something that we actually, as my business, are a part of. And we'll have a link in this episode, and we'll also have a QR code coming up on this episode here
Mhm.
at this point to be able to show how to get to that and get signed up for it. We are not sponsored by PPA.
Mhm.
However, it has been such a big benefit for my company. I want to share it with everybody.
Yeah.
They have not just insurance for the photographer of up to $2 million insurance capability for it. They also have equipment insurance.
Mhm.
I take pictures and I drop my camera and I break my lens.
Yep.
I'm SOL unless I have insurance. PPA has
somebody
that
gets
good.
pushy during a street photography session and
Yep.
tries to rip your camera off of you.
I trip on a rock.
Yep.
Something like that. So they've got equipment insurance on there as well as
Mhm.
liability. And then they have a law system already built into there. So all the forms I just listed, I got from PPA.
Mhm.
And they have all of them pre-written by a lawyer for your area.
Mhm.
There are a few states that there are limitations on. Some of these can include like California. Kansas does have some
Mhm.
limitations on some of the forms.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of watch to make sure that your state is still covered.
Yeah.
But PPA is for American photographers to be able to be a part of this.
Now, here's a follow-up question for you. For as an event photographer, you might get asked for, doing like events at, like, say, for example, a school. My kids are in
Mhm.
school, and all of them the school has their own release forms on, whether or not you as a parent allow their stuff to get posted online for their Facebook pages and stuff like that in their events. How does an event photographer navigate something like that?
Well, it's a really good point to bring up as a school. I'm actually one of the photographers at my son's school.
Which is also my kid's school as well. too.
Yep.
Yep.
Which has actually brought up at that point. We have its written agreement with the school that says we are allowed to be there as a professional capacity to take pictures of the kids.
Mhm.
So it goes to their releases for it.
Mhm.
But in that, we cannot release any of the photos.
You're giving it to them to release.
Yes,
Mhm.
except to the school itself.
Mhm.
We can't post any of those photos on Facebook
Mhm.
ourselves. We can't do that because we don't know which kid's which and which parent has given the authority.
Yep.
So we have to sign saying that we promise not to release any of those photos.
Mhm.
And when we do that, like for me, I have online gallery access
Mhm.
just because of my moral compass and understanding people like yours
Mhm.
of your lifestyle. If you don't want those pictures out there, I don't even allow my pictures to be on the gallery access for them to be able to get digitally. I bring them a physical
Mhm.
USB copy
Mhm.
when we're done, and the rest of it stays on my internal drives.
Mhm.
Nothing ever gets put onto a web-based server
Mhm.
because it could still get leaked.
Yeah.
But that's, again, I go the extreme when I go through things.
Yeah.
Some of the other stuff that we have to go through for other events would be signage. So if I'm going to, we'll bring up a perfect example. We have, I just jumped off my brain there. Wild West Fest that
Yep.
comes up here every July. I get to take my drone and I fly the parade on there. I actually have to put signs up before everyone makes it over to the parade route, letting them know there will be a drone flying in the parade.
Mhm.
It flies directly above my vehicle because I'm in the parade.
Yeah.
But we're filming the crowd, and because of that, we have to make that known.
Mhm.
And the way it's set up is by going past those signs, you're aware, and therefore you've given your acknowledgement to my business
Mhm.
that you know that you're going to be filmed.
Yeah.
And I have seen some people that when they do that, they see us coming up and they'll kind of like tuck behind other people, or they'll have their kids kind of come by them a little bit more, just so that you can kind of get an idea. And as a visual observer, I see that. I tend to take the camera and move away from where they are, just to kind of respect their privacy even more.
Yeah.
But as a public, you can be able to take pictures and videos at any point in a public setting.
Okay. Very good.
But check my notes here real quick. There was one more thing on here, or not. I guess for the part, at any time, anyone can sue you.
Mm-hmm.
It's just going to be an inevitability. Someone's going to go somewhere and say, I want to sue you for it. As long as you've done your due diligence beforehand, the likelihood of them winning the lawsuit becomes significantly reduced.
Yeah.
I've been doing this for 15 years. I have not had one lawsuit yet, but at the same time, it could happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I do all this to make sure that if it does happen, I have all my ducks in a row to begin with. But it's a scary thing. You gotta go with it, though. I believe the next one, we're gonna go to our next segment here shortly, and I think you're gonna talk to us about what you can do as a photographer more on your rights as a photographer, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to learning from that. As a street photographer, you've got to know your rights out there. And as an event photographer, we have different rights to work with.
Exactly.
So, but with that, we'll go back to another break here, and we'll come back with knowing our rights.
To quote the only band that matters, that would be The Clash, know your rights, all three of them. Welcome back to the Bokeh and Mocha podcast. We're going to be this episode, we've been talking about knowing your rights as a photographer, knowing your client's rights, knowing the rights of an event and private property and things like that. But to basically sum it up, and especially from a street photographer standpoint, your rights are pretty much, if they're in public, they're fair game kind of thing. We're again, it just goes into like kind of like a moral compass kind of thing. There is a very famous street photographer that I can't remember his name off the top of my head. That's how bad of a street photographer I apparently am, but I'm blanking on his name right now. But he would walk the streets of New York and just he would have a flash, a handheld flash, like connected to his camera. And he would just like get right up into somebody's face, click, and then just keep walking kind of thing. And it was very avant-garde. It was very in your face kind of thing, but also it was also one of the like kind of pioneers of street photography in a way. And a lot of people are torn on whether or not it's, you know, kosher or not. To me, that feels a little bit too aggressive. There are two the philosophies for street photography. There's either fishing or there's hunting. Fishing is where you camp out a place, you like the light and the look of like this area, and you're just waiting for an interesting subject to walk through the shot, and you just kind of capture them. Versus hunting, where you are scoping out for an interesting person to maybe kind of follow a little bit, and it feels a little creepy in my opinion, but follow them to see where they go and what they're up to kind of thing. And I think there probably is like a time limit on how far you can follow them before it's considered stalking. So it's just something that I just avoid entirely. I always subscribe to the fishing standpoint over the hunting standpoint. Now, for me, if I want to maybe kind of bruise the scene a little bit, that's the term that is used in street photography, where you now interact with the scene and you go up to somebody and just say, hey, I like your hat. It's a very cool hat. It's really eye-catching. Would you be okay if I took a picture of you just being in your natural environment and just you know, and usually most of the time they're pretty cool with it for the most part. Just having like a little bit of a personality or personal skills will make that smooth over a lot more as well too.
And your appearance.
Huh?
Your appearance too.
Yeah.
If you're coming up and you have the appearance of, I am a photographer, a professional photographer, and you upkeep yourself with that, you tend to get more people to be at ease on that. Versus if you come up and the aggressive way of just like, I'm taking your picture, that could be seen as a little bit more off-putting.
Yeah, exactly. Or if maybe you're feeling like you're acting a little creepy, then it's going to come off a little creepy too. If you're like in a ghillie suit in the bush or something like that, it's probably not going to work.
The best thing is just don't move. They don't know you're there.
Exactly.
I am not speaking from experience on that one.
Yeah. But yeah, basically, especially as a street photographer, knowing your rights is incredibly important. And for the most part, as long as they are in public, it's fair game on a legal sense. But again, like I would let your moral compass be your guide on that. There's a lot of aggressive street photographers. When I was in Vegas, there were street photographers there, and I'm using air quotes on that one. What they were doing is they would kind of pop out, take a picture of you, and then try to sell it to you.
Right there in the street.
Right there in the street, kind of thing. That's that's not kosher.
See, I've never really done a lot with street photography just because that's not my style. My style is very nature and not as many people. But if I were to do that, my whole thing would be I'd at least want to get in touch with the model, at least give them my business card and say, hey, come check out my website so you can look at the picture and let me know what you think, kind of thing.
That's how I got a few of my models. My models and a few of my follows is that I would photograph dogs. Dogs are a great way because you're not putting a person inside of it there. You go out to Frontier Park, and if somebody's there playing fetch with their dog, offer to capture some action shots of them chasing the ball and whatnot. And it helps with practice and whatnot. And you also don't need to really necessarily sign a release form for a dog per se. But
although it would be really kind of cool to have a release form with a dog's paw print on the release form. I kind of I'd frame that if I could.
Yeah. But then I would talk to the owner and just be like, yeah, if you want to check them out and see and see it, you can check out my Instagram and I'll post them there later on this evening or this weekend if I have time or something like that. Kind of thing.
Now, one of the other questions I have for you too is we talk about Instagram, Facebook, all that. As a photographer, how do I protect my rights as a photographer of posting these pictures on social media?
Well, long and the short of it is that if it's street photography related, you can get away with it as long as you're following the rules of that we discussed in the first segment, not going onto private property, not making it where it's like obvious, like what's the word I'm looking for?
Stalkery.
Not just stalkery, but I am blanking on this word here. Extortion, not extortion. You're using somebody, kind of thing. So, like I said, for me, like I like to, if I capture a face, I want it to be like not in a moment of tragedy or traumatic or anything like that. Like if it's just somebody, like sometimes, a guy standing on a street corner smoking a cigarette looks pretty freaking cool. And you want to capture that moment. So, that's the other thing to keep in mind is, but I can legally post that as long as they were in a public setting and just having their smoke break, and I'm not like being kind of creepy about it. And usually if I'm going to post somebody's face, I'm usually approaching that person.
Okay.
To let them know like, hey, I kind of like the way you look, and we turn it into a street portrait session than a street photography session.
Kind of starts as photography and goes into portrait.
Exactly.
Pretty cool.
Exactly.
One of the other things too with social media, if you're worried about your pictures, like you losing rights to your pictures, watermark them. But don't watermark them to the point where it is in your face.
Yeah.
A lot of people, they're worried about, well, if I just put my watermark off in the corner, that I'll lose it because someone will crop it in. 99% of the pictures that are taken off of Facebook and everything, they just copy the picture directly over. They don't even look to see if there's a watermark on it. There's a photographer who's local here. His name is Chris Schmidt. I love his photos. Beautiful photography. Hopefully we can get him on the show one day because he's phenomenal.
Yeah.
He actually puts his watermark on some portion of changes every time and everything. And I can't tell you how many times that he flagged his own pictures because people steal the picture, post it with his watermark just blatantly right there.
Mhm.
And it's not a big obtrusive watermark. It's only about a quarter of an inch watermark on those pictures,
Mhm.
but it's phenomenal to see how many people will take that.
Yeah.
And he's just so great. He's like, if you want to take a photo, I'd be more than happy to teach you how,
Mhm.
but don't steal my photos.
Yep.
And there's other people, they put the big watermarks all across the image.
Mhm.
Now your image is kind of ruined.
Yeah. Now, to touch on that, now what about sharing the post? It still goes back to you, but
Sharing the post is different
Yeah.
because it's still attached to me.
Yep.
But these people will literally copy the image,
just right click, save image as, and then repost
and then
it.
put it as their post. Look at this picture I took.
Mhm.
You're not Chris Schmidt.
you're not photos from Griff. You're not
Yep.
you're not Christopher's Creations LLC.
For me, one of the things I do, and people see this all the time, and people see me on the street and say, "Oh, I've seen your pictures." They can tell they're mine because I actually have a signature
Mhm.
on I don't just do copyright; it's a full signature on my images.
Mhm.
And then that way, when they go through, if they share it, great. But it's my signature; it's always on that image.
Well, we might talk about this a little bit more in depth on another episode, especially
Absolutely.
with the area of AI. But I did do
Nice.
an experiment of uploading my pictures into ChatGPT just to there weren't ones that I really cared about, but we can talk a little bit more about that at
yes.
a later episode too, because I found some fascinating stuff on that one.
I think that's a great way to end this episode to get people to listen more. And
Yeah.
sadly, I don't think our next episode will be that, but we will have that one in the future.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna have to go ahead and close out today's episode. I believe the next episode you've got a surprise for
I
us.
do, in
right?
fact. Yeah, we're going to be doing some portrait photography and getting into kind of some basics of lighting and posing your model and stuff like that.
Which I think is great, and I think we're gonna have a different point of view for this one, which will be our first time running with this. So
Yeah.
I'm excited for that.
Providing that the tech works, that's the big thing.
Absolutely. Well, until next time, we want to say to everybody, thank you so much for joining with us, and keep shooting and keep sharing. Perfect.
Excellent.
Ready to see your world like never before? At Christopher's Creations in sunny Hays, Kansas, we're not just taking pictures, we're capturing pure magic. Imagine breathtaking drone photography and high-flying videography, perfect for showing off real estate or making any project absolutely unforgettable. But we don't stop there. Our pro photography team lights up every shot, from beautiful portraits and scenic landscapes to confident family photos and powerful headshots. Got a story to tell? We're your go-to for awe-inspiring videography, from dynamic editing to crafting those eye-catching commercial videos that get you noticed. So ready to bring your vision to life with a burst of creativity? Come visit us at 1700 Vine Street in Hays, Kansas. Give us a buzz at 785-380-9040, or take a peek at all the amazing things that we do at ccreationsks.net. Christopher's Creations LLC. Your sky, your story.
Get ready to step into a winter wonderland. This holiday season, Waukeeny, Kansas invites you to a truly monumental celebration, the 75th anniversary of our legendary Christmas tree lighting. For 3/4 of a century, our magnificent 35-foot tree, sparkling with over 6,800 lights, has stood as a beacon of holiday cheer. What began as a heartfelt dream by 2 local businessmen in 1950 has blossomed into a cherished tradition passed down through the generations. And the magic isn't just for locals. People travel from all corners of Kansas and even around the world to witness this enchanting spectacle. It's more than just lights. It's an experience that creates lasting memories for families and friends. So don't miss the sparkle, the joy, the heartwarming spirit of the Christmas city of the High Plains. Join us as we celebrate 75 years of brilliant tradition.
And welcome to the Boca Mocha Podcast, episode 6.
6. Wow, we're already at the 6.
We're already at 6. All right, we're on a single camera now at this point here because we have to move some tech around in order to do things. But I'm, of course, Griff, joined with Chris, of course, and Genevieve, who is unfortunately still under the weather. So she won't be with us this episode as well too, but we hopefully will have her back for episode 7. But today we're going to be doing a special treat for you guys. We are going to do a portrait shoot live for you guys. Basically, you'll be able to, if we can get the tech to work, see the settings on my camera. I've already got it all set up here with my 85mm and my speed flash. We have lighting over there, and we're going to switch camera angles once we get there. But first, I want to introduce you to Graciously, who stepped in to help us out today, because it was supposed to be Genevieve that would be sitting in because she has some experience with modeling. We have Brooke with us here, local actress and all around great bubbly personality. So she photographs well and whatnot. So she'll be joining us. Brooke, are you nervous?
Not really, but kind of. It's not bad.
The fact that you're getting free headshots out of this also helps the matters. Helps the matters out as well too. But we're going to be going over all of the different settings and whatnot that you can set into for your camera. We won't switch over to that view just yet. But Christopher, what are your thoughts?
I think this is gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Providing it works.
Providing it works. We're kind of breaking the mold of a podcast here, because most podcasts are just, we sit down, we just don't do anything. The idea that we've thought about for this podcast is to not just keep it in the studio here, but to take it portable. And this is kind of the first step to be able to get that. So we'll do an in-shot here in studio. For those who are not familiar with the area, this is actually in Hays, Kansas at the Christopher's Creation Studios, which is on Vine Street, which is the main street from the interstate. This is a shared studio space. People can be able to rent this out, do exactly what we're doing here. And we wanted to kind of bring that into the podcast to show that we can be able to take this portable. And eventually you can try and get out, like do street photography with the same concept, or I know some people are interested in astrophotography,
Yep.
so I'm excited to share that.
A lot of
But
red light for that one.
Yep.
That we'll
Yep.
need, so we'll be able to be seen
Oh,
what we're
yeah.
doing.
Oh yeah. But for today with our portrait, I mean, we're really going to show, like you said, lights and what we do for our poses, how to be able to make things just explode off that canvas style
Yeah.
for our system. But as a portrait photographer, both of us have portrait photographer experience. What's going to be interesting too is to show the different styles that we have. And with our equipment we have here on site, it's going to really get to demonstrate that. I think you brought a special light with you too that we'll get
I
to
did,
show
yeah.
when we move over to that side. But just a quick 30-second, what is portrait?
Portrait is basically pictures of people or dogs. I guess it could be also pets as well too. Family portraits, senior portraits, dance photos. If it involves a person, it is a portrait. It can even be just a macro picture of somebody's tattoo. If you want to showcase something like that, that's technically a portrait shot. Technically speaking, if it's a street photography thing, if it has people in it, it's still technically a portrait, even though you're kind of capturing a scene versus like an architectural shot or something along those lines. But the long and the short of it is that gather grandma around the kitchen table for Thanksgiving dinner. Everybody points at the turkey and laughs because it's going to fill our bellies, and that is technically a portrait.
I mean, and technically a portrait also isn't just staged either. I mean, we talk about staging our portrait images with everything, especially with you being our model today for doing that. Griff will be staging the picture as we go. But portraits can also be an unstaged picture. You just get the person to laugh and talk to you and capture the just emotion in those. But I look forward to working with you today.
I'm excited.
Good. Good.
I will tell you right now, because we are doing a demonstration, I'm probably going to at first pose you in kind of some more unflattering kind of things, you know, like to kind of go over like, this is what's going to happen if your head's not up, if your shoulders are slouched and stuff like that kind of thing too. So that way we can because I know Brooke's going to be okay with this, so you know, kind of thing. That's why I tapped her. So.
There you go. Well, awesome. Well, we're going to take a quick break. I know that this thing was kind of short, but we want to put a lot more time into actually what we're going to be doing. So we'll look forward to seeing what's going on here next on the Boca and Mocha podcast.